Right, good afternoon, everyone. Time is 4:30 by iPhone. So welcome to the special Cabinet meeting of Melton Borough Council. Members are reminded that we will be using the audio-visual system this afternoon, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak, and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. The microphone is live when the red light displays. Please switch your mobile phones to silent. I'll do mine in a moment. I will now provide a reminder of the evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park, nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. There is legislation that allows the public to film, record, or use social media at a council meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. So we move on to the meat of the meeting. Apologies for absence. We don't have any because everyone's here. Declarations of interest, anyone? I have a personal interest due to being a county councillor, and this is on record for any matter which relates to Leicestershire County Council. Item 3, consideration of the strategic partnership and business case and operating agreement. I turn to Kieran, Stockley, the monitoring officer, to summarise the report.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Members, the purpose of this report is to present Cabinet with the business case for the strategic partnership and also the memorandum of agreement for consideration to establish whether you wish to make a recommendation to Council in relation to the formation of a strategic partnership with our neighbouring authority, Harbour District Council. It responds directly to the decisions taken by our Cabinet on the 12th of October, where authority was given to work with Harbour District Council to develop a full business case. Following the decision taken by Cabinet in October and to enable a comprehensive and robust assessment to be undertaken within the required timescales, we as officers have worked alongside external independent experts to assist in developing a full business case and legal framework, both of which are appended to your reports tonight. The business case is set out at Appendix A, and that sets out the design principles for the partnership, the intended benefits, and the initial proposition to share a small number, 3 to be exact, of senior roles. It also sets out the potential service delivery opportunities that could be explored later down the line if a partnership is established. The business case has been reviewed by our scrutiny committee, and feedback will be provided today by the chair. The same version has been provided to the Cabinet for their review and comments tonight. The memorandum of agreement is provided at Appendix B, and that sets out the approach to operating the strategic partnership. It provides a legal and governance framework which would underpin the proposed arrangement. The MOA has been reviewed by our Audit and Standards Committee, and a feedback report has been provided as an appendix to your reports. A slightly amended version of the memorandum of agreement is appended to the Cabinet report, but all changes have been tracked for ease of reference. Most are stylistic to provide consistency throughout the document, but there are a few main changes following feedback from scrutiny and audit and standards that I'd like to highlight. The first is at clause 5.1, which is just to provide clarification that when we talk about apportioning costs equally between each council for the senior roles, we mean that each council will contribute 50% of those shared senior officer posts. So we've provided that clarity at paragraph clause 5.1 of the memorandum of agreement, subject to your approval. There's also an amendment to clause 6.3, which originally spoke about a 6-month termination, and we've actually changed that to 7 months following feedback for 2 reasons, really. One, to respond to that feedback in respect of the ability to undertake an early review of the partnership, but also to prevent any conflicts, because members will be aware that our constitution stipulates that a council decision can't be reviewed within 6 months. And there's also an addition at clause 21, which is where we've inserted a variation clause, which you would see in all legal agreements. And that's to respond again to feedback, but also account for any changes that might be required if the partnership is approved. Your report set out the potential benefits that could be realised through a strategic partnership, and they're listed at paragraphs 3.3 of your reports. And the key drivers for exploring this strategic partnership are listed at paragraph 4.5. Now, the business case, members, contain two main components. The first being the initial proposition, and that's effectively what both councils will be asked to consider and approve in December in forming any strategic partnership, and that's the sharing of 3 senior officers. And the proposition before council will be to enter a strategic partnership and share those 3 roles as set out in paragraphs 5.5 to paragraphs 5.26 of your report. The second component of the business case is those opportunities that might be available to us in the future. It provides a summary of all future opportunities which could be explored if the partnership is formed, but those opportunities are subject to further and detailed business cases being prepared and accepted through the governance structures, and those are detailed at paragraphs 5.27 to 5.36 of your reports. Cabinet tonight are asked to consider all feedback presented during this meeting and to decide whether to endorse the business case and the memorandum of agreement, and in doing so confirm any requirements, refinements or changes that you feel need to be incorporated into the versions that will be considered by council on the 20th of December. I'm happy to take any questions, Leader, but I'll pass back to you at this stage.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Kieran at this stage? No, thank you very much. Thank you, Kieran, for the summary there, quite detailed summary to be fair. And thanks for all your work preparing the papers as well. Members, I don't have to tell you, this is a massively important decision, and it is appropriate that we evaluate it fully and have all the information we need to do so. This process of exploring a strategic partnership started following discussions between myself and the Harbour leader, and in October, our cabinets agreed that the potential benefits and opportunities were sufficiently compelling that we wanted a full evaluation of them as well as the risks. The business case before us this evening sets this out in detail, and I believe makes a strong case for what a partnership could bring. Our scrutiny committee have reviewed the business case, and the chair of scrutiny is with us tonight to provide feedback from his committee. We also have a summary of the feedback from the Audit and Standards Committee on the memorandum of agreement, which has been drafted to underpin the proposed arrangements. I look forward to discussing the business case and the comments from the scrutiny and audit with Cabinet shortly. Firstly, can I begin by thanking the Chair of Scrutiny Committee for joining us this afternoon, and invite Councillor Child to provide the feedback from his committee.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the Scrutiny Committee met on the 22nd of November to consider a presentation and a report on the Strategic Partnership business case. We were asked to consider the business case and provide the feedback, which I shall now do. In reviewing the cost apportionment for a shared chief executive and his deputy, the comment was made that whilst the costs would be shared 50-50, there were other options to base the sharing of costs. As this option would clearly disadvantage Melton, clarity was sought on why a 50-50 split was being applied, as the population ratio and the council tax base ratio had it 2/3, 1/3. Following an explanation from the strategic advisor, it was noted that to ensure a balance of senior leadership across both councils, the senior officers would need to split their focus equally and between both authorities, and therefore the fairest way to apportion these costs would be 50-50. It was explained that other options for cost apportionment were included in the business case and that these would be considered and applied as appropriate for any future business cases for collaboration. The committee stated that they felt the business case was too lengthy and repetitive, considering the decision that council will be asked to make at the meeting on the 20th of this month is whether to share a chief executive and 2 deputies. It was suggested the business case is slimmed down and focuses on the proposition and recommendations which are due to be considered at the council meeting. Some members raised a concern about the formatting of the document. Members commented that the business case lacked the financial detail to support assumptions, detail within the business case, that the strategic partnership would save each council the money through future service collaboration. It was explained that a service diagnostic had led to identification of opportunities for savings, service improvements, and service efficiencies and growth, and that the future collaboration options, any future proposals will be subject to future business case through which savings would be identified and assessed. As the savings that are indicative for later phases did not have a business case to support them and would only be considered in the spring 2023 at the earliest, the chief executive confirmed that additional information to support those assumptions would be provided and were provided by the end of that week. Members noted that in year one, Harborough were deleting a director post, therefore saving 190,000, whilst the council will save 42,000 by the sharing of senior officers, i.e. the chief executive and 2 deputy chief executives. This may weaken, it was felt, in this area and would undermine confidence, with the danger that the performance of some services could deteriorate. Concern was raised regarding the termination arrangements, particularly if there is a change in political leadership after the elections in May and subsequent change in priorities. Members recognise that such arrangements are covered in greater detail by the Memorandum of Agreement, which will be considered by the Audit and Standards Committee. The comment was made as to whether the benefits for Harborough were greater than the benefits to Melton. It was explained that the business case included the intended benefits from a strategic partnership for both authorities. A member of the committee raised a concern about the impact of sharing senior staff at a time of good progress and improvement in performance in Melton, particularly in the housing services. However, the value of sharing senior staff and expertise was also noted. A concern was raised about how manageable it would be for a shared chief executive to manage different priorities across 2 councils. It was explained that the proposed partnership governance arrangements are designed to find alignment and areas for joint working across both councils. The timescales for considering the strategic partnership were questioned. Some members believe that the process is quicker than they had anticipated it would be. The need to be able to monitor progress of the partnership was noted. The committee raised the need to ensure that members retain control of decision-making processes and that this needs clarifying at the council meeting on the 20th. Members were assured that each council would retain its own sovereign powers and democratic accountability. A commitment was made to consult with council as and when significant changes are proposed. And finally, members of the committee recognised the need for change, some expressing broadly support for the partnership. A comment was made that it presents a strong case for change and a good attempt to future-proof both councils. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Child. The Audit and Standards Chair has provided feedback from the Audit and Standards Committee in the form of a report, but is not in attendance today. I trust all members have read the report. Councillor Child and Councillor Pritchard, if you're listening on YouTube, you will both be aware that I've attended both your meetings, and I have to say, as leader, I thought you both handled the meetings really well, very professionally, and obviously you had an impact on the document tonight. There's no doubt about that. So thank you very, very much for that. It is worth noting that a number of the comments from the Audit and Standards Committee have already been built into the updated version of the Memorandum of Agreement before us, as highlighted by the Monitoring Officer in her introduction. I'm also aware that further information has been provided through an updated set of frequently asked questions or commonly asked questions, but I would like to respond to a few specific points before opening up for further discussion. In terms of the rationale for sharing senior roles 50-50, rather than using relative populations, this is something we considered, and the various options are referenced in the business case, which sets out the pros and cons for each. In reviewing the options, we felt it was better to go for 50-50 because it ensures an equal leadership focus across both councils. It is worth remembering that the responsibilities placed upon a senior manager do not change based on population size, and although Melton has a smaller general fund, we do have an HRA which Harbour do not, and taken together, they are broadly similar value. Equally, the headcount across both councils is similar. It is important to say that this 50-50 split only applies to the 3 senior roles, and any other shared arrangements will be apportioned based on the most appropriate approach for that service or role. It is also important to say that in terms of monitoring, time spent at each council, and we heard this from the leader of East Lindsey, that senior managers are not judged on the time worked, but on what they deliver in relation to the corporate plan. This happens now, and under a shared arrangement will be no different. In relation to the concern regarding the length of the business case, it is a long document, but important that all the information required to make a decision is provided. Taking on board the feedback through the Cabinet report has been written to make a far greater distinction between the initial proposition to share 3 roles due to be considered by Council and the future opportunities which are yet to be fully investigated. In relation to the request for more financial detail, I'm aware additional information has already been provided to scrutiny members and would ask that this is included within the updated version of the business case. It is worth noting that the potential savings are indicative, but they are also prudent and have been agreed with our Section 151 officers. Regarding the risk highlighted redetermination arrangements and a potential change in leadership after elections, I see this has been explicitly referenced in the Cabinet report, and I would ask that it is updated within the business case risk register also. Can you get me some water, please, Maeve? Sorry about that. On monitoring the process and performance of the partnership, this is certainly a key aspect and is included in the business case with an initial review after the election, and then the annual review taking place early in 2024, with commitments for annual reviews thereafter. We'll certainly need a performance framework developed for the partnership, and I expect this to take place in the new year. In terms of the speed of the process, the first discussions as a council of this were in September, and we are due to consider the proposals in December. The business case itself was published on the 18th of November, and so it will have been available to review for over a month by the time we consider it at council. We heard from the leader of East Lindsey recently that he felt a degree of pace was necessary to ensure it didn't destabilise the organisation, and this makes sense. Ultimately, we will have everything we need to make a decision at council with input from our scrutiny and audit committees along the way. So, members, I turn to Malise for any comments that he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I'm a strong believer in partnership working, as we know. And when I was leader, we were in a stronger financial position. But gosh, we benefited enormously by being part of a Welland where we all came together. And it wasn't just for financial purposes. It was really just to discuss and see what we could do together with no rules. It was complete partnership. We were free to join things and leave things. The business case for this is, I believe, belt and braces. My support for it is really based on a gut feeling of trust. I know you realize that, Mr. Leader, that I'm a team player, and you and I are one of the very few Conservatives who actually wish to remain in Europe and part of that team. Like a marriage, I believe that there is a strength in two things joined up by a common purpose, but of course not surrendering their individuality. And I acknowledge really that we do need, like a marriage, maybe a prenuptial in case things don't work out. And I believe we've got that built into this case as well. So, Mr. Leader, thank you for setting this up, and you have my total support in seeing it through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham. I now turn to Councillor Bindloss for his comments on the business case on EMOA and any feedback you might have as well.
Thank you, Leader. I think you were quite right at the beginning when you said this is a huge decision. It is a huge decision. And I think, like probably everybody here and watching, I have read and reread and reread and gone through the paper. And, you know, there's a lot of information. I have to say I'm very grateful to scrutiny and audit, because it was very useful to have that information and that feedback and something that brought a different dialogue into it. So thank you for that. I thought long and hard about this, and of course there are many aspects of the strategic partnership to be taken into consideration. For me, however, it became very clear after listening to last week's meeting and the discussions that came from that, that along with the reports that we have recently been given, that there are very many benefits and opportunities that a strategic partnership such as this one can offer us. My natural interest in funding leads me to consider the increased opportunities that will be open to us in our borough of Melton in relation to funding and investment. Bringing together in a partnership both East and South Leicestershire would make great steps towards us accessing greater funding opportunities, far more than would have previously been the case. Just by the pure size and strategic location, we become a much bigger player within the field of attracting funders and investors, both locally and, of course, nationally as well. Like it or not, so often the case that smaller authorities, such as our own, are simply overlooked as a funding or an investment possibility, or sometimes happens, just a smaller chunk of the funding pie is offered to us. The strategic partnership before us now would, I believe, allow us to move beyond this funding rut and allow us to together to access just such greater opportunities Working in a partnership will allow us to apply utilising the strengths and features from both our boroughs, and of course, to draw from a wider pool of funding expertise. The upshot of this may in turn enable us to fund and bring to fruition funding schemes and their associated programmes that would have otherwise taken us far, far longer to realise, were we to remain as we are now. Making both boroughs more attractive for investors to consider a realistic opportunity as an area to live in, an area to work in, and of course an area to invest in. And with that in mind, I'm happy with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Councillor Bindloss. I now turn to Councillor Brown to invite his comments, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I fully endorse what's been proposed here, and also like to thank both the Chair of Scrutiny and the Chair of Audit and Standards for what's been a quite a robust scrutiny and debate around the pros and cons of doing this. But there's a few things. Is one which I'm sure a colleague, Councillor De Boer, will come on to in a bit. Is there is obviously the national financial challenges, and I'll let him comment on that. But basically, if we don't do anything, you stand still and you go backwards. And that's the reality of life today. So we need to go out there and try and do something that's going to maintain services that we currently deliver and try and improve those services, and hopefully maybe have some new services that actually meet the changing needs of our local community. And it's about having that voice nationally, where we will cover about 51% of the geography of the county, and being able to have a little bit more clout and bringing money in, as Councillor Bindloss has alluded to. But it's also about that collaborative working for me. And in 5.32, just to bring people's attention to for the public that's watching, is if you look, for example, CCTV, and I've mentioned this in a number of the briefings that we've had, without working with Harborough, even if we do or don't work with them, we need them, because we cannot monitor that new CCTV system without working with Harborough District Council. So we're already working with them. This is just formalising what's already going on, enhancing the services to the public. And actually, it's a good example of where the public has been talking to our councillors in the town for the last 18 months and saying, we want a CCTV system, we want it to improve, we want it to work. We've made that happen. And actually, we can enhance it by working with Harborough District Council. Leader, fully supportive of it. You're showing leadership. I know some people haven't said that, but actually you're looking at the challenges, the faces, and you're taking those challenges head on. And hopefully, whatever happens in May, we're leaving the place in a better place than when we started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown, for your comments. I now turn to Councillor Freer for any comments you may have.
Thank you, Leader. Looking at the proposal in front of us, my attention was drawn to design principle number 1, and then further to the intended benefits, thinking about the strategic place, leadership, and the communities. My portfolio has a lot to do with the community and community grants and funding. And the way that we use our customer services for the benefit of the community with the website and the members that the people that we employ. When we think about the place, leadership, and strategic influence, we know that we experience challenges with our ability to influence decisions regionally and nationally. I think by working as a partnership, we will increase our influence regionally and nationally, meaning we can speak with a stronger voice, more united voice across a larger geographic area, on areas of commonality and shared challenge. For example, on issues such as rural or cost of living. Additionally, this will be better enablers to secure external investments, which is one of the first things that I thought about when this business case was put to us, that as a united organisation, two organisations coming together, that we would be able to coordinate what we're doing and have a greater impact. Importantly, working together will be able to increase our reach and influence, but more importantly, remaining connected locally, because we're not merging the councils. The councils will have our own sovereignty, but by working together, we can improve our reach and influence. Benefiting our residents and communities and businesses will help us to ensure our services are resilient. This will help us to share leadership, best practice, have access to different skills. Both councils can offer that, and help us to change, adapt to things that are happening that come at quite a pace. For example, when we look at COVID, Homes for the Ukraine and the cost of living crisis, all of which have come at some speed towards us, they take a lot of time and resource on top of everyone's day job. And that will help us to become more resilient and make better use of officer skills. By working together, we'll have more options and create one model of working, but apply it to each council area. Another example is working together and working smarter to prepare for implementing legislative changes, such as the new waste legislation, which falls under my portfolio. And the changes that are coming with recycling and food waste collection. Our teams have already been working together on quite a few areas and sharing leadership and expertise. And I think this will help us to proactively respond to this challenge. Listening to the scrutiny meeting and the audit and standard meeting, there were some areas that were brought to our attention, changes that have already been made, but also reacting to the fact that people have been saying that they feel as though this is something that's been brought upon us quite quickly. If something's a good idea and something's going to support us as a council, support us as officers and members, a good idea is a good idea. It's been worked on robustly and thoroughly, and there's been areas that we've been brought to our attention, and we've fed that into the business case. So with that said, Leader, I'm happy to support the business case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Freer, for your comments. And finally, I turn to Councillor de Burgh for any comments he may have. Over to you, Ronnie.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, colleagues, I'm sure that no one would disagree that financially the world is a very difficult place, one in which we, together with many others, are struggling to maintain services. It's no secret that as a council, we are very small fish in a big pond. In terms of ranking, I read from the report that we're 311 out of 314 nationally, which does put us right at the bottom of the heap. Operationally, this creates great difficulty in hiring and retaining quality staff. How many times at considerable cost have we recruited a very capable officer only to have them headhunted by a bigger council with more resources? This is severely and negatively affecting our ability to provide the level of services to our communities in the way that we aspire to do. Some who are defeatists will say that that's the way of the world. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. I believe that entering into a strategic partnership with a compatible council, by combining our resources and realising potential efficiencies, we should, after a period of realignment, be in a position to compete equally in that recruitment market. And in so doing, be in a position to recruit the highest quality staff that we need, offer development opportunities to our existing staff, provide high quality services to the communities we serve. Colleagues, for that reason, I believe we should embrace the proposal, not because we are in a difficult position, but because a strategic partnership, properly managed, offers an opportunity and a fighting chance to survive, to deliver better services to our communities. On that basis, Leader, I give my support to entering into the proposed collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burrell, and thank you to all of you for your comments and all being noted. And it is important that we remember that at this stage, we are only talking about the sharing of 3 senior roles and creating a framework to evaluate future opportunities. We are not talking about a merger or giving up any decision-making powers we currently have. The potential benefits that could be created from this approach are significant. As a district, it's sometimes difficult to get our voice heard across the county or region, and working in partnership, which would represent over 50% of Leicestershire geographical area, would enable us to be far more influential. As rural communities, we have many similarities with Harborough, whether that is an aging population, digital connectivity, or housing availability, and working together, we could cut out duplication, share skills, and do things better once and not twice. We have small teams, and sometimes, despite our best efforts, we get knocked off course from things beyond our control. Working together with Harborough could help make our services more resilient and deliver savings and efficiencies. And sometimes our staff get attracted by bigger, better paid roles elsewhere. A partnership would help us to create more opportunities for our teams and assist with recruitment and retention. Given the financial challenge for local government and public services more generally, doing nothing is not an option. If we want to keep improving and protect our services as much as we can, then doing nothing is not an option. The Memorandum of Agreement protects the sovereignty of both councils. And ultimately, if it doesn't work in the way we want it, then we can revert back to current arrangements. For me, this represents the best option to help us do more and weather the storm within local government. Now, based on our discussions, I would like to move the recommendations with a slight change to recommendation 246 due to the omission of a word. The recommendation should actually read appoint and authorize. Is that noted by democracy? Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for the recommendation with that slight amendment?
Mr. Leader, I second that with much pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham. Any further comments from members? Nope. So I will now move to the vote and propose to take the recommendations 2.1 to only 2.3 on block first. So 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. All in favour, please raise the hands. Unanimous. Is that noted, Adam? Thank you very much. I will now take the recommendations 2.4, 2.41, 2.42, 2.43, 2.44, 2.45, 2.46, 2.47, 2.48, and 2.5. All those in favour, please raise the hand. Is that noted, Madam? Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of the meeting with the conclusion that members have obviously approved the recommendations, and this will now go forward to full council on the 20th of December. Thank you very much. I close the meeting, well, by that clock at about 8 minutes past 5. Thank you very much.